What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. I'm senior editor Adam Vale from the Koalition.com, and I'm joined by editor-in-chief of the Koalition.com, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And throwdowns on Carlos Romero.
Yo, 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 yo.
People, here we are. Fear the Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 4, right? Kent County. Man.
King County.
Is it King? Sorry, my bad. King County.
But now I'm doubting myself. Let me. Yeah,
it's King County. King County, Georgia. That's where it's supposed to take place. King County, Georgia. There's a lot to say. There's a lot. This is going to be a rant. I talked about it before we recorded. But just do the housekeeping. People, if you haven't watched the episode, you can go on AMC Plus, watch it. It was on AMC last night, proper lesson, so you could watch it then. We will be discussing spoilers and other stuff going on and our theories of where this is going to be going. So if you're new, that's what we're going to be doing. And for all the returning listeners and viewers, thanks again for the support over on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Koalition. We've been doing this for years. You guys have been sticking around. Even when Walking Dead proper ended, there was almost no drop-off, which is fantastic. You guys are still sticking around. And I'm pretty sure it's because they know there's so many more spin-offs. Maybe they're going to stick around and watch those. Maybe they're not. And they just want to hear people talk about it, see if it's even worth watching. I can tell you right now, this final season is not worth watching. And it's sad. It is really sad because we've stuck by it going into the 8th season. Last season was kind of rough. We talked about got kind of rough. The season before that, solid. It was going in a great direction and all kinds of characters leaving that didn't make sense leaving and killing them off and back and forth. And we know with John and that whole situation. That was upsetting, especially where we saw so much promise with him. The crazy cowboy with a dead shot. Awesome. But no, whatever. So that's it. We're going to get into it. This is this review here. Oh, man. I'm upset. I am upset because we had just finished hearing a prior episode, the whole thing of Daniel saying, oh, we don't know what PADRE is. We can't find it. We spent 7 years looking for PADRE. But then also we see the kids running on, Mo and her friend, Dove, running around on the main shore. Clearly, PADRE's not that far. Right? And we goofed about it. But man, this episode just took it a step forward. They were like, take all disbelief. Just like wash your mind, sit there like a mindless blank and just absorb. Because this made no sense. That we find Morgan headed back to his old house from the first season of Walking Dead proper. Because he wants to finally put down his son, who had turned into a walker, and he waited 17 years because 7 years between that time. But as Rich, as you pointed out, Morgan had mentioned to Grace, that had been 10 years, right? Because remember, we still got Walking Dead proper timeline.
I think there might be a miscalculation in the years. It's been 7 years since they went to PADRE. Mm-hmm. So remember, there was a huge time skip, a 7-year time skip between when Mo was essentially taken by PADRE and that. And then I think it was like 3 years before that. So I think it's like 10 years in total since.
That's exactly it. Yep.
But the thing is that when we count for how long from the son dying, it's from season 1 of The Walking Dead. That's when that happened. And I think remember, it still takes place in that time. It's still that timeline of walking people, because that was always the thing. It's like, is Fear Walking Dead the same timeline? Is it parallel with Walking Dead timeline? And the answer is yes. And the way we definitely know it was yes was when they introduced Morgan, because Morgan left Alexandria and went on that kung fu walk. Remember, he was like, I'm just gonna walk, and he just walked across, to go over to the West Coast. So that's how we know it's within that time, and we know how long it took for Walking Dead proper. So what, we add those 11 years with the 7 years that Mo has been taking for now him to decide he wants to go back to his original house to put down his zombie son. You get what I'm saying?
I understand what Carlos was saying with the time. I somehow, I mean, this show is, when it comes to the time, they've told us a lot of things in this show. They've jumped ahead further in time. They've jumped all over the place on the regular show. So I don't really know what the exact number is. I'm just going based off of the line that he says towards the end of the episode, saying, oh, hopefully it doesn't take another 10 years for me to come back and pay my respects. So that's why I figured it's, like Carlos said, 3 years and then the 7 with the time thing in between. But I don't know.
Because now I'm trying to think back, because remember when Rick bumped into him in that location? I mean, the guy his whole area was fortified. Yeah. This, I get it. The showrunner in the post had talked about how they tried to recreate it because that whole set, all those sets have been destroyed. Right. Mm-hmm. But man, what made that original set from Morgan amazing was it was a compound. Remember, you had all those booby traps and stuff set up leading to the house.
That was a different place.
That was a different place because they said that this was a recreation of the original house that he was in.
I think it's the original house where he met Rick the second time, because he met Rick the first time when he was in his own house, guarding it with his kid. And then he met him at the second house, which wasn't the same house, where he was just loony. And then
I'm all right. So now I'm mixed up because I remember that, but I thought that's why in this episode at the end, remember when originally went to house, he couldn't find the son, the zombie son. He was like, oh, I could have swore it was here. Then he went to another house, and that's when Mo found zombie son. And I was like, and then that's when he realized, oh, it was the other house, but it's still the same block. You know, that whole block, if you remember, it was still, I'm pretty sure that was still the same area. It was all fortified. But now they think about it, remember, Morgan didn't leave with Rick at the end of that episode. And we didn't see Morgan for a while. And it was mainly because the actor had to go do some other film projects and he was tied to it. And once he finished with that, then he came back. So maybe that's the time difference there also, because you don't count that time. I don't know. The whole thing is that it doesn't add up. But you know what? That's just one problem. The time is a problem. Also, location. We've talked about this from Walking Dead proper, from every damn Walking Dead. We've talked about this, how we don't have a map. We don't have proper locations for tracking, because this also made no sense that he was just walking distance from where the coast is for PADRE. And like I said earlier, Daniel said we couldn't find PADRE. We spent, 7 years looking. Not hard enough. Not hard enough, because clearly it's all within a walking distance within 1 day. 1 day, because they're not saying, oh man, it took me 2 days to get back to my house or something. Grace, when she found Morgan back, how did you know I was going to be here? Well, I knew this is where you were going to go. And the whole thing. Well, then you weren't that far away. Oh, I mean, Rich, what did you think? What did you think when you saw this? It opened like that. That here he is. Did you think that's where he was going? Did you think that when we saw him run off after that whole situation with Madison, go find help, go do this, and he said he had something to do? It wasn't to go do that. It was to go put his zombie son down.
Yeah, that is very confusing with how they did that. This is what my overall thoughts are on this particular episode. I mean, I've said before on this podcast, I feel that they have run out of ideas, so they're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And really, when you think about the whole premise of this season, it pretty much is very similar to how The Walking Dead ended. The group of people band together to take out the one bad enemy. This is the same exact concept recycled over again. The only thing is that with Morgan, they're like, well, this guy is a legacy character in the original Walking Dead series, so let's try to revisit his past. And that can take up maybe an episode or two just to pass the time. But I think for all that time that passed, clearly, if it's been a decade or more, why the hell does Morgan all of a sudden think, okay, yes, I need to go back and put my son down now? It doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. I understand if you have something in the back of your mind that you delay doing, but for that long, it just doesn't make any kind of sense. And it doesn't seem like it's the most important thing right now when he's trying to get back with Mo and have a family reunion of some sort. So it didn't make any kind of sense to me.
Gotta make a declaration about this episode.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What this episode made me realize is I'm rooting for PADRE. Morgan and all of these other cats are the worst parents ever. They're horrible.
They're clueless.
They're so clueless. Morgan finds his daughter in the beginning, I guess the beginning of before the time skip. And he's like, I'm gonna ditch her with these people. She lives for 7 years, and he's like, I guess I want her back, kind of. And then she almost dies the first day she's back with him. And man, it's just these people like are so incompetent at almost everything. So it makes me root for PADRE. It's like, yeah, I think they were right. I think the kids are better off with them because they sure as hell ain't good with these guys. And you guys are right. The whole thing about Morgan, he escapes quote unquote prison or wherever he was in that little cart, and he's like, I gotta do something, and then he runs to Georgia. I'm like, wow. Yeah. Is that what kind of an epiphany did you get in between escaping and running to make you want to go back?
Okay, so can I make a comment on that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. What I think is that they obviously filmed a lot for this show, and there had to be a couple of scenes that were cut. Maybe there was a scene that explained when he made that decision, but because they had to cut it for TV, it didn't make any kind of sense. That's the only thing I could think of, because I know a couple of other shows we've covered in the past, they have said they've had to cut certain things that happened in the show because of the length. So maybe that's what happened, but ultimately that's an excuse because again, it could have still been better explained.
At first, I thought when he showed up and you heard all the walkers in that area, and he was like, I was too late. I'm like, oh, so this was a community that he had taken their kids and stuff, because they were having hardships, and that was his justification. Remember, he was like, oh, I tell them I know a better place for their kids, and I thought that this is where he was running to find these people, and then he was too late because something bad they turned into the walkers, and that wasn't the case. He was too late because he couldn't find his son who was a walker. Like, I can't. Oh man, I'm like, this is horrible. Go ahead, Carlos.
Just going back to what you guys mentioned earlier as well, the whole proximity thing and lack of knowing where the hell anything's at just makes things so difficult to believe, because they're in PADRE Island. Who knows where it is? It's probably in the south or southwest. And somehow they're making these trips to Georgia like it's like someone going to the freaking grocery shop and coming back.
He had no car. He had no horse. That was it. He just walked.
And it's like, oh, and it's like, oh.
And Grace followed him. She reached him. That's the other thing. So she tracked him down. She walked.
Yeah. So I agree. Oh, but since you are talking about a lot of the complaints of the episode, let me just make this quick comment here. I agree with everything that has been said. The one thing that I have to say, though, is that, like I said on last week's show, I'm not convinced that PADRE is a threat. And I say that because look at how easily, what's the girl's name? Shriek?
Yeah.
Look at how easily she got taken out towards the end of this episode. That's okay. So I'm supposed to be scared of that person as a villain. I just don't buy it.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? We got to get to the big one, the big elephant in the room. And this is something that you picked up earlier during the week when the showrunner came out and was asked in an interview, did this show just find a cure for the infection? Because of the whole thing with Finch. He gets bit. Next, we see him and he seems to be fine. The radiation treatment that June is applying seems to be working. And that's what he says. He was like, it's not a cure. This is just a treatment. Well, what kind of treatment? How long is this treatment? Because we see now with Dwight and Sherry that they're going after Morgan, and they're like, oh, we're hunting you down because they're helping our son. But we're going to get our son back and we're going to take him. Like, how? You know that he's infected. You know he needs treatment. Where are you going to get this treatment? Out in the woods? Now your kid has to stay there because of the medical supplies. At least in the train, the hospital that they have if you don't even go back to Padre? Like that again made no sense. That logic of like, oh well, we have to bring you back, we have to bring you in, and because of our son, we're going to take that then they're going to let us take our kid. I'm just returning a favor because you took our kid before, but now we're taking our kid. We're doing.
That is by far one of the dumbest things about this episode, because the last interaction that Dwight had with Shriek, he said, "I'm going to kill you."
Yes.
But yet you're still working with her to get your son because she's with him. So it
doesn't
make any kind of sense.
Again, this is the Wizard of Oz type of thing. And it's like, oh, well, it's Padre. So he said he wants to kill Shriek. He definitely, that's the plan. But when he got on that walkie, he heard the brother who was playing as Padre, and then Padre told him, hey, do this and you can get your kid back. But then if you think about it, you can't really take your kid back because your kid needs treatment now for who knows how long, because it looks like they still don't know how long it lasts, because remember, with all the experiments, and June had talked about it, they've had some treatments, but they don't last. The people eventually do turn. And that's the whole issue here, or else we would have just started this season with we just created a viable treatment, and it lasts 6 months, and every 6 months you have to get this shot or whatever it is. I mean, we've seen something like this done before, actually in video game form, Dead Rising. Remember those canisters? There was a shot. People were living normal lives infected. You just had to get the shot every few months or whatever it was. So that's what I'm assuming they're trying to go with this. But what's the point? What's the point? If this is not canon with this story arc of this treatment, then it's going to begin and die in this season. There's no point. And using Dwight and Sherry to do the dirty deeds and then come up with that, the one creative part of this whole episode of when Dwight and Sherry were outside and they were trying to get Morgan to come out, and he had Mo at this point because she followed them too, and Grace, and they're in the house, and he sends a burning walker to burn them down. Let me get this straight. You're sending to kill them, to send them to burn them out, but then at the end you want to save them, and you're siding with them. It's too much flip-flopping. It was too much, and it was pointless. It was pointless because, like you said, the end result is they're going to work together as a team to take down Padre. Well, Padre isn't the problem. Your connection, your inconsistency to work together is the problem, because you can't create a community, and it's a mess. And I'm sorry, but the actress that plays Mo, she's not even acting. She's just delivering lines. There's like no emotional feeling. She's just talking like this, looking left and right. Okay, Morgan. All right. Yes, I did see Madison. I mean, show some emotion. Play along with the fear. Don't just keep. It comes off very disconnected from the rest of the performances. Morgan is. I'm blanking on his name, but he does a fantastic job. He oversells his line. He's too good for the show. He's always been too good for the show, and he knows it, which is why they made him the star of this show. Because they're like, well, we need someone that can really pull it. And the actress that plays Madison, she's also great, but she had left. And coming back, that was the thing that we had talked about. Remember, we thought Morgan was going to leave. Like, oh, this is when he dies, because now you're going to have the new lead. But no, they're going to coexist. And that's what we're seeing here. But it's not working out right, because they made the Morgan character so clueless with everything. It just doesn't deliver on any fronts, and it's a shame, because this is the last season. We need to see more consistency with the story, some connections. We still have characters missing that we know we're going to see. Victor is definitely going to come back. I can't imagine that he went from beginning to the end, the final season. It's like, nope, not showing up. I'm going to phone it in. And anything's possible just because there's a link with Shameless. We've seen that with the actress play Fiona. Remember that whole thing? We were like, no, definitely have to show up in the final season. Come on now. It's like, nope, didn't happen. So it's possible, but go ahead, Rich.
Well, I predict that you will see him show up, but it's probably going to be in episode 6, since that is, I guess, the last episode before they take a break, because you had said that they're splitting this up.
Yeah.
So episode 6, you'll probably show up, and then they're going to the final 6. He'll be in those consistently, but they still have his name credited on every episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
He's just not there. So,
and he had produced, or he directed. I think he was directing. He was getting his directing chops in some episodes, and I feel like almost everyone has at some point has jumped into that role, and that's fine. But, I mean, Carlos, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry to put you through this, because there were some really good seasons for Fear that were entertaining and had some engaging stories that just kept you tuned in. But unfortunately, this last season is not one of them. And for us to bring you in, it's horrible. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
Apology not accepted.
Oh.
I mean, I knew. Well, I didn't know what I was getting into. I just knew that this was the last season, so might as well do it. Yeah, I mean, I did Tales of the Walking Dead, so I mean, it's that level. It's that level bad for me. Not as bad as Tales of the Walking Dead, but I've already been.
It's lost its way. This show has lost its way. It went from being all about the horror and tragedies and all stuff to now just like a novella, just like people just talking and double crossing constantly and dun dun dun, I'm back from the dead, and dun dun dun, I'm no longer your friend. But then later in this episode, I will be your friend, and it's like too much of that, too much, and just repeating these characters and these roles. It doesn't do it. And then, the worst is still, again, the fact that Dwight and Sherry talking about, it's great to see you again, and we finally get to spend time after 7 years. Why? And they were like, we had the fake that we didn't know each other and all. None of that makes sense. None of that sounds believable. And what was the purpose? For the time jump to have an older Mo. That's all it was for.
Well, now Mo is old enough to want to escape. She can talk and deliver those lines, as you said, which she is clearly not good at acting yet. But that's what I think they wanted to do, because I mean, in my opinion, when they did the time jump, this is them saying, well, we need to try and reboot this in some way so that the final season feels like a fresh experience. But it doesn't work. When certain stuff is not explained, it just doesn't come together the way you would anticipate. That's what has to be.
Last season should have been the final season. The nuke, everything destroyed, scorched earth. That should have been it. That last building, the tower, that should have been their sanctuary. Whoever could make it to that tower and live there wins. And that's what they kept building up. Remember the big wars? We never got that. We never got it. And it's a damn shame, because that could have been it. That's how they could have ended it. This was not needed. This is ruining it. It's going to really get to the point that if someone ever says, hey, if I was to jump into Walking Dead, I'm like, the first few seasons and the first half of last season, when the nuke happened and it exploded and people walking around with the radioactive suits and all that. That was awesome. You should have left it that, but they didn't.
I agree 100%. It just proves the theory that once you continue to have seasons, eventually it's going to fall off, because the writers, the director, they have all these different ideas and they just throw out to try to keep interest in the show. And the thing is, now, one thing I will say is that I'm pretty sure that there was somebody in AMC when they wrote this episode, and then you had the final thing where Morgan has to rescue Mo, who is about to get killed by his old son. I'm pretty sure someone thought, you know what, that's a brilliant way to have Morgan finally complete his task of killing his son. I know someone
help me, help me. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
and then the whole episode, Morgan is hesitant to shoot. I see my dead wife. He's hesitant to shoot, but all of a sudden, obviously, at the last minute, now I'm going to pull the trigger.
Also, I understand that she's a kid, but she's only seen this man twice in her life, and she's already calling her daddy.
Oh yeah, Dad,
Yep.
and Dad and Mom, and oh no.
Like,
She
I
knows
mean,
Daniel's name already. She knows everyone else's name already. She's only heard it once or twice, but she can remember their names, Madison, all that stuff. It's too much. It's too much. I mean, where's the CRM and all this? No mention of the CRM. That was a big part of it. These people have helicopters. It's a military force. No question. Unless they play a big part, unless Strand is part of it, that's the only big.
Well, no. I know. I have an answer to this question. You asked, where is the CRM? They are currently filming or waiting to film the Rick and Michonne show, where they're supposed to have a major presence, because that's where Rick has been at, right?
Well, remember, there's multiple, but as we know from World Beyond, there are multiple locations. They have multiple bases.
That's correct.
So that's why we were hoping that was their way of saying, we're going to sprinkle all these bases and all the other Walking Deads, but we didn't see it in Walking Dead proper. That came and went without it. We didn't see it mentioned in the Tales, any of the Tales. They didn't. Wait, did they mention it in Tales? Wasn't there a love?
Yeah,
no,
they did.
They did, right? There was
yeah.
one. There was one little brief connection in Tales, so they did stick with that. But Fear didn't continue with it. They threw him in there, but then they took him out just as fast. So I don't know. Keep going.
I do think eventually you'll see the CRM, because there was another character on this show that actually went off with the lady that was in the CRM. I don't remember her name for some reason. So I kind of feel like they leave that door open for a possibility, even though the actress says she's done with the show. I guess it's possible she could show up in the end if things get so severe they need some additional.
Yeah, that was she was the journalist.
Yeah,
that was a journalist.
But I forgot her name.
I forgot her name. That's all right. Out of sight, out of mind.
No offense to the actress. I really don't remember the characters.
Yeah, it's a lot. There was a lot of characters. How about the brother and sister situation? Remember when they finally reunited in last season? Where are they now? Where are they now?
That's a great question.
Oh man. So I don't know what else to say. Go ahead.
Well, there are two other quick things I want to say about this episode. And then obviously you and Carlos. Okay, first and foremost, you made the comment earlier that when this episode started, Morgan didn't want to go into the house because he figured, he heard the noise. He said, my son is in there. So they go to the other house next door. He's there with Mo, Grace, and at one point in that particular scene, he tells Mo, go upstairs, whatever. And they're trying to do this whole dynamic of the kid in the relationship, having a relationship with the parents and stuff.
And she even says it. And the way she do it, is this what it's like to be with a parent? It was, again, no emotion, just like reading the lines. Like they have a cue card. Read this, please. And it was so unfitting. No, this doesn't make any sense. You are out there. There's walkers. There's people that want to kill you. And is this what it's like to have parents? But
I agree. Didn't make any sense. But the point that I was going to make is that, so they're already in that house. And then all of a sudden, after, all this whole issue with Dwight and them, and they know that they have to leave the house. They're trying to leave the house. But then Mo ends up going back into the same house. And then all of a sudden, Morgan has that revelation. Wait a second. My son is in the other house after he gets the call from Mo that she's in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, my problem is that they were already in that house. This was not a new house. They were already in that house. And you mean to tell me the whole time they were in there, they didn't hear any noises upstairs, that the son was up there chained? That whole time they were in there, that didn't make any kind of sense to me, for sure. But hey, it is what it is. They got that ending that they want. And then the other point I was going to make is, I recall I said on this show, the previous episode, I said, well, now that they've told you the story of Morgan trying to get back with his daughter, I'm pretty sure that now they're also going to say he's going to try to have some type of connection again with Grace.
They did the kiss. Yeah, the kiss. It's like, I don't need to see this again. Are we supposed to chuckle? Is that what you want us to? Oh, that's funny. What show are we watching? Is there not fear in the title? Fear? I want to feel it. Where is it? So we get these cheesy one-liners. Come on now.
Well, I agree. It is very cheesy, But now I feel because of how the episode ends, and you see Grace getting bit, they have written themselves into a corner because you and I have seen in the past where Grace had the radiation, and she was
she said she was dying too. Well, that's the other thing. She said she was dying.
Yeah.
That's how I knew she was already going to die. Because they did the embrace, they finally got the kid. I was like, oh well, we have to. This is how we do our tragedy. Something's gonna happen. You can't be all happy. They make it seem all happy, and then something's gonna happen. And sure enough, when the mole thing, and like you said, but she said she's sick. So I'm assuming it's the radiation came back and it's cancer and it's the whole thing. Because she said she found a hospital and she did treatment. How did she find time to find a hospital and travel to? I don't know. Maybe she was at the same hospital where Rick was. Remember in the original series? And she went back to town. She went there. She was like, "Oh, okay. I found all the supplies. Hold on. Let me go find, Morgan. I know where he would go." Please.
Yeah, no, I agree. That does make any kind of sense. But now as a viewer, the story, whatever happens, she's not going to survive. Morgan had this whole thing. Oh, well, maybe June can help you with the treatment or whatever. There's no way in hell that she's going to survive now because they've already had her survive the last time that she almost died. So I think you kind of see that coming as a viewer. So and they want you to feel like heartbroken, sad, whatever. I don't care though. Because they've had the whole, Morgan and her haven't been together for about 7 years. They've forgotten about each other.
Clearly, they don't care. So why should I care?
Exactly.
If they really cared about it, can you imagine that you're with someone, you're dedicated, you're like, we're going to raise this child, we're going to live a life. And not only do you give up the child, but then you high five each other, say, peace out, see you later. Yep. No. Wrong. Yep. I'm sure these actors, when they read the script, they're like, "Oh, this shit is definitely getting canceled. We're definitely this is the final scene." Good. I get it. Because this is. I don't want to be known for this. I have other things I need to do. This is not good. This is not good.
It definitely doesn't make any kind of sense because I understand that they're telling you that Padre is very imposing and is trying to keep people separate. But if the connection is that strong between those two characters, you will still find a way to have some type of interaction with them, some type of relationship with them. And that was not, it just, to me, it didn't make any kind of sense today because Padre is not that imposing. The brother and sister, to me, like I said, I don't think that they're imposing in any way, shape, or form. Others may think they are imposing because they don't know. But after the previous episode, I'm like, oh, they can easily take these characters out in one episode, but they're obviously going to stretch it out until the very end of the season where they all of a sudden need an entire team to take out these two people and whatever other foot soldiers they have running in the camp with them. So I don't get it.
I don't get it. And we're not seeing any of these other collectors showing up without thumbs. Where are they? They're not dead. Where are they? No, we have nobody else, so we have to keep sending Dwight and Sherry. Like it's just it's a shame. It should have ended last season. It should have just ended. They could have just ended everything. Even before the raft, just have the big battle at the tower, kill Strand off. What are we gonna do? And then look off at the wasteland and just have Grace up there holding baby Mo, looking at Morgan, and showing all the rest of the people from their other communities just migrating over to the tower and says, "Hey, we're just gonna make the best of it." And then roll the credits. And I would have been cool with that. None of this makes sense. Mm-hmm. None of this. It's like, we're going to blindfold you and you're not going to see where we're going. Well, clearly you're not going that far. And the show is proving that because they're constantly making back and forth within a matter of hours, and not even, because if you look at the time of day when they get on the boat and when they come back, it's still daylight. It's never like, oh, it's nightfall now. So you can try to put in it's taking half a day to get from one to whenever. No, it's not. So it ruins everything about seeing Daniel and all these parents wandering around. We've been searching for 7 years for Padre. That's a lie. This is horrible.
Agree.
This is horrible. Yeah, no one's gonna win an award on this set. All right. So, Carlos, before we wrap it up, anything you want to say? Is this still the butter show for you? Are you happy? Is this what you always wanted?
You know, things are the way they are. Uh, it's unfortunate that it can't be as good as some of the previous seasons, some of the previous episodes. Um, we have to go through the punches, and I don't know. Maybe the next half of the season can be a lot better. But as far as we're concerned, this part of the season has not been very good.
No, it has not. And like you said, yeah, I hope for the best. We still have a few more episodes. We got before we even get to that break. And then, of course, we have Dead City. Or is it still called Dead City? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still Dead City. Or is it, yeah, right? Dead City? I'm blanking on the name again. Yeah, it's Dead City. Yeah. That is, I'm looking forward to it. I can't talk too much about it, but I'm just telling you, I definitely so far better than this. So people, if you're got a bad taste in your mouth with the whole Walking Dead after Walking Dead proper put an end to it, and yeah, typically one can argue spin-offs never really live up to it, but that's not the case in a lot of shows. Some shows spin-offs are better. It all depends on what you're looking for. And I'm looking for new storytelling. I don't need rehashes. And that's what it looks like we're going to be getting from the new ones. And I thought maybe they can go in this direction with the final season. Once they start talking about the time jump, I'm like, oh, okay, then we could throw all kinds of new things in. Nope. No, it's just going to be just horrible storytelling that makes no sense and just leaves more questions than answers, but questions that we shouldn't even have to ask, like location, time, why. Where are the rest of these communities? He kept saying there was all these communities he was taking kids from. It's not just the handful that are walking around with Daniel. There's got to be more of them. Where else were you getting all these kids? And the PADRE made it seem like there was a huge community of people. Because remember when they were talking with Dwight and Sherry saying, oh, well, when we went through the whole evaluation process, and they said I was needed here and I was needed there. And Daniel had said before, oh, they kicked me out. They said I was too old. They didn't need me. Okay, so then that means that they have a large staff. Where is this large staff? We don't see it. We don't see a lot of things. So whatever. Let's hope for the best. We got a few more episodes. Thanks again, people, for tuning in over on iTunes, YouTube. Go ahead on YouTube, leave your comments, what you think of this season so far. What's going on with this? What are you looking forward to? Anything special? You're looking for any surprises? I don't know if this show can surprise me, at least at this point. Even with Strange showing up, that's pretty much a given. So I don't see any other big surprises. I don't know. I'm just waiting for the end at this point. I think that's all it is. I'm just waiting for it to end. And then that's it. So anything you want to say before we close out, Rich?
No, feel free to leave your thoughts on the show. Let us know if you're enjoying it, or are you also frustrated with the show as well. And we look forward to talking again soon. I do want to give a quick programming note. The next recap is possibly going to be a little bit later because we're both going to be out of town later this week. So, but we'll be back.
Yep. Yeah. We'll figure something out.
Sick invite.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks again, and we will see you for the next episode. All right, people. Peace.